refresh this because I know how YouTube is. I want to be sure I'm live on. Yeah.
Let me know if my vocals come through starting to sound kind of robot-y. Sometimes my connection hiccups and I just need to like replug in my interface.
Yep, no worries. It looks
Okay.
like it's live on, at least on my end, Leah.
Yeah, it's live on my end. So let me go.
Recording in progress.
There you go. All right, looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the 50th episode of Gotta Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. I am your host, Leah, and of course, I have my very amazing co host, Kevin, here.
Hello, everyone.
And our special guest of honor for tonight is the amazing Ian Flynn.
I don't know about amazing, but hello and thank you very much.
All right. Before we start this Q&A, I have put a pinned message here in the stream chats that Ian Flynn will not answer any Sonic related questions, so please refrain from asking them. And if you do, if you do put Sonic related questions, we will have to skip them. So please be mindful of that. Please ask more generalized questions to Ian or any other franchises that he writes for. So, all right, let's get started, shall we?
Ready when you are.
All right. So, here's my first question for you, Ian. Tell us your background of how you became a writer.
So I did it in all the wrong ways. Uh, I was pursuing my English degree in university and realized that I wasn't going to do anything with it. I had no greater plan. So I decided, well, I like the Sonic the Hedgehog titles by Archie Comics. I like writing. I want to write for them. How hard can it be to break in? I spent my university career trying to get in the door, sending in sample scripts and letters of intent, which really is the wrong way to go about it since it opens them up to potential legal liability stuff. But I just happened to get lucky in that there was a new editor. He was very interested in getting new talent. He just happened to look at my one submission and said, "You ain't bad, kid. Let me show you how to do it properly." And got me in the door. I did some early data gathering, fact finding, compilation stuff. And within a few months, he's like, "Good job. You want to be lead writer?" And I'm like, "Eep. I mean, yes, 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 please. I can do this professionally." And I've been writing stuff for people for 20 years now.
Wow, interesting. Very, very interesting. Like it's kind of like you could say it helped you get your foot in the door, even though
Oh,
you know.
it got my entire leg in the door. It grabbed me
Yeah.
by the lapels, threw me into the room saying, "Here's your career." It's like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I've done odd jobs and part-time jobs in the years in between, sure, but I've always been doing freelance writing in some shape or form this entire time.
Nice. All right, Kevin, do you have a question for Ian here?
Yeah, so what was it like to get into the comic industry back then compared to how it is now? Has there like been any changes or evolution into that process over time?
From my experience, editors and companies are more aware of the legal liabilities with unsolicited stuff. It used to be a little more loose because what could go wrong? And then I feel like the audiences became a little more legal savvy and it was like, okay, we really actually need to be more professional and lock down on this. We can't just accept material unsolicited. We need to filter and be more attentive to how we are bringing people in, which makes it a little harder. That's the catch 22 of the whole thing is you need to be in the industry to make connections, but you don't make connections until you're in the industry. Um, Beyond that, I don't feel like it's changed too much, but I also have a fairly limited experience. I've worked with only a handful of publishers on a handful of titles, but I've just had a lot of longevity with them. So my experience is very, very different than a lot of other folks who come in to do a special or do a mini series or do a one off and then they're looking for the next project or after that. Having a gig for multiple years back to back is very unusual, and I'm quite thankful I've had that privilege.
Mm.
That is very interesting to hear.
Ooh, very interesting. Okay, it looks like there's no questions in the chat as of yet. So here is my next question for you, Ian. Um, did you have any writers who inspired you to become a writer yourself?
Oh, sure. Grew up with Stephen King, with Kurt Vonnegut. Stephen Crane was my beacon of light when we were going through English class. We'd just gone through the slog of transcendentalism, and I was not having a good time. And then we got to Stephen Crane, who was basically the reaction against transcendentalism. Is like, yes, you're speaking my language. E. Cummings, who's like, oh, all those extremely stifling formats to poetry? Guess what? No. It's like, yes, preach. And then other writers in comic books like Jeff Smith, I'm blanking on all these wonderful folks. Uh, Peter David, shoot, I can't see my bookshelf from here. I should know these names off the top of my head, but yes, lots of people that I'm horribly forgetting, and all of them contributing to the melting pot that is my brain.
Oh, nice. All right, Kevin. Do you want to ask your question first before we read the question by Dolius in the chat?
Yeah, sure. So, from your perspective, how has the comic industry evolved over time, and where do you see it going from here?
Uh, I feel like the independent comic scene is finally starting to gain some leverage that it should have had for years. It's not quite making the mark on the main metrics, but the main metrics are also becoming more and more specialized. They don't represent comic reading in general. And I think, at least in the Western markets, folks are finally starting to wake up to the fact that the manga style format of storytelling that is so popular that eclipses everything else we do over here is doing that for a reason, but very, very few people are willing to make that jump to that, to change up the formulas that we have here, to risk losing the current market that's locked in and by tradition to expand into newer audiences. And it's a much broader, more nuanced topic than just the format that's being produced. There's a very different cultural mindset on graphic literature on a whole over here versus over there. But uh, I feel like there is at least a growing understanding. I don't know how much of a shift we've seen by this point.
Okay, that's a very
Mm,
interesting answer.
interesting. Very interesting. All right, so I do see a question by Dolius the Wolf. What was the inspiration for rebooting Cosmo the Merry Martian for its 60th anniversary and changing the name to Cosmo the Mighty Martian?
Uh, Archie was very interested in revitalizing all these older properties that they've had in the archives for so long. And with the original Cosmo, which, man, going back and reading the original 6 issues, that was a trip. Nothing was off the menu. Everything was just oddball wacky. And I'm reading through it for reference, and it's like, this is great. It makes no sense, but it's great. They travel to Saturn and have to fight giant vegetable people. Why not? If this is standard, anything can happen. And they wanted to do something that was more than just a gag comic, so we did the transition to Mighty Martian to show that it was more action oriented. Still comedic. I mean, you can't get that far away from its roots. But something that's a little more plot driven, something that's a little more action oriented, but still maintaining that humor. And I just had a lot of fun with it.
Nice. All right, so here's my next question for you, Ian. What advice would you give to aspiring comic writers, trying to break into the comic book industry now?
Number one is to write. Doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's something that you're going to publish or use or anything, just write. Try to do a little bit a day. Doesn't even have to be a script. Make it short prose, make it a limerick, something. Just keep your brain limber in that mindset. I remember when I was first getting into the industry, I'd sit down, I'd bang out the rough draft, and then rest for a day or two and come back to it. I could feel the gears grinding back into place. If you are on
Mm,
top of it, if you're always creating a bit and bit, you stay mentally limber. It's like the muscle memory kicks in. That being said,
mm,
if you are tapped out, if you have nothing left in the tank, it's okay to take a day to rest, recuperate, focus on the chores or whatever else you need to get done. Just don't rest on your laurels. Always work on a little something. And I don't mean just in your head. I do that too. Oh, I'm plotting and revising in my own head. I know I fall into that trap all the time. It's different when you put it on the page. I didn't believe my teachers, all of them over the years saying it, but it's true. Putting it on the page is different than doing it in your head. And it also helps get you to move and revise and move forward. And that's
mm,
just the basics of the craft. Getting into the industry is very difficult because I did it the wrong way. I don't have the legit way to do it. It's also harder to do it because your portfolio is not as easy to review as an artist. You can open up
mm,
an artist portfolio and immediately see the strength of their line art, the depth of their coloring, their ink work, et cetera, et cetera. Writing, you have to actually sit down and read. And editors are very, very, very busy people. So, what I would recommend is number one, get your own blog going. There's plenty of free or close to free platforms out there. Update it regularly to show that you can maintain a schedule, that you can produce material consistently. You don't have to write an entire book each blog post. Just show that you are creative and witty and can, do that you make word good. Uh,
mm,
have your portfolio ready to go. Have a good business card. Something that leads to your website or your link tree or whatever that has your immediate contact information so that if you get the chance at a Comic Con or other show, you have it to hand off to the editor or to an artist that you particularly admire. Say, I love your work. I've been following it since you did such and such. I would love an opportunity to work with you. Do you mind if I give you my card? Because sometimes artists can make that suggestion. There have been instances where the editor says, you know, do you have anything to pitch? And they can go, oh, yeah, I got something, and I want to go with this guy here. You never know who's going to help get your foot in the door, like you mentioned earlier. And number
mhm,
three, create. If you have an artist friend that wants to go in halvesies with you, make your own book, put it up on Tumblr or whatever web space you put it on. Doesn't have to have a huge view count. That doesn't necessarily have to be your job. Just put it out there. Show that you can make the craft. And there you have something that you can link back to and say, look at this comic we have made. Or have samples out, a little 6-pager that you can hand out at shows. Look at what I have made with me and my artist friend. And maybe your artist friend is the one who gets picked up and you don't. That's okay. They'll remember that well, hopefully they remember that you helped them up and then they bring you up with you. Support each other. So, sum up the rambling. always keep creating, make sure you're easy to find and contact, and put yourself out there as much as you can.
Absolutely great, insightful advice. Yes. I know as an artist myself, you have to have like those, you have to have like other ways, other than your website, utilizing social media to also post your works is also a great way to get your art out there. People, there's always a lot of people that goes on social media, social media is like big nowadays. So utilize it to promote yourself, and and the more you do that, it gets around, and you never know who might end up seeing it and they're like, yeah. Ooh. All right. Kevin, do you have another question for Ian?
Yeah, what's it like to write for a comic versus writing for a video game? Are there any similarities or are there mainly differences between the two?
The underlying fundamentals are the same. Your character arc, your characterization, your three act structure, if you can apply it. Uh, with the projects I've worked on, the manuscript itself is fairly similar in design. But with comics, you have to keep in mind that you're working on a static medium, that each panel is a singular snapshot in time. Whatever action is going on in that panel is implied. It's not actually moving. You're in media res every single moment. So managing what can happen per panel and how that flows in a page, how that action flows between pages, how it all is incorporated into the single issue or story, how you work the dialogue in there, what you're doing with the visual storytelling. That's all a very different mindset than video games where you might have a full animated cutscene. You might only have talking heads. It may be voiceover over gameplay. It may be a combination of all of those. And that can change how much story and how you tell the story drastically. Comics are also a much more straightforward creative process than games. Games have so many more people involved. And with a game, hopefully your director and producer are on board and understand that your script isn't just the words that are conveying the story. It is part of the gameplay experience. And it needs to be incorporated into how the gameplay influences the writing and how the writing informs the gameplay. They aren't individual elements. They all come together into one thing. And that's very tricky to juggle and even harder to revise sometimes.
Mm.
That's a very interesting answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see the similarities because both the comic medium and the video game medium, like obviously, comic format, you gotta wait until like the next issue, and you're building up the character arc, the story, and it's pretty much how video games are too. So I can definitely see like the similarities. Oh, okay. I do see another question in the chat by Trey Thornton. Hi Ian. Very nice to meet you. I have a question. Do you have like I guess like I think what they're saying is you do you have like a favorite writer that you love to work with that you love working with?
Hi, Trey. Uh, I haven't worked with too many writers. I'm usually a solo act.
Mm.
Um, I have worked with Evan Stanley, and our careers have followed very similar trajectories. So we know each other, we know each other's style. There's a great deal of respect there. And I am kicking myself because I did a whole story arc with Archie with one of the legends of the comic industry, and I cannot remember his name to save my life. Mark Wade, thank you very much. How did I forget Mark? Mark freaking Wade. Um, yes, I wrote multiple issues alongside Mark Wade. Do you think I could remember that? I told you I'm terrible with names. Uh, And with all of those, it was a matter of delegating the workload, who's kind of like in the driver's seat and who's doing what with the script. And in both of those instances, I feel like that worked out for us because that way we didn't have immediately clashing ideas. It was, all right, this person has the vision that we're going in, and then this person polishes it up or works on it at this angle. And then comparing notes and clearing revisions with each other before going to editorial. And then as notes came back, we need this changed, we need this tightened up, whatever. Who tackles the first round of edits? Who's going to look at those and decide what to do with them, and then compare notes from there and send it back. And it added a little extra step to the process, but both were pretty seamless operations.
Mm, nice. All right. So here is my next question for you, Ian. Like, do you outline your stories meticulously, or do you discover the plot and characters as you go, like when you're writing for comics?
Oh, I definitely want to know where I'm going first. Um,
Mm.
for a formal project, for doing something for somebody else.
If,
Say again?
oh no, sorry.
Okay. When doing a project for somebody else, first step is the springboard, which is usually 1 to 2 paragraphs, maybe a page that details the primary beats. Here are the characters. Here's what's going to happen in the story. Here's the central themes. Here's how it is resolved. Once that gets approved, we move on to the breakdowns, which are a page by page synopsis. And there you need about one central idea per page so that you're not overloading each page with too much information or action. And you're keeping it to about a sentence a piece, which is way easier to edit and move around than doing whole paragraphs or entire scripts. And then once the breakdowns are approved, then I move on to the script itself. And by that point, I can connect the dots. I can color inside the lines. I know where I'm going with it. And sometimes it can change a little bit as things progress. Maybe something that worked better in a synopsis needs to be fleshed out or slightly tinkered with when it comes to full script, but usually it doesn't deviate too much. When I'm working for myself, I'm a little more light on the direction because I already have a general idea of where I'm going with it. My notes are much more sparse and implied, which sometimes is fine. And like, okay, I do this, 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 I'm good. Other times I'll come back to an older document and I'm like, what does this mean? He does the thing. What is the thing? What did I mean 2 years ago? Put down your notes, Flynn. But there are ways of going about it that are purely exploration. But the way that I was trained, the way that I'm comfortable with, and I feel like what is most conducive in a industrial setting is to make sure that all of the parts are already aligned before you go into the script.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, you're pretty much like yeah, you're just because if you kind of just do it as you go, you're kind of like, you don't really have a specific direction, so that's totally understandable. Yeah, that's smart to literally just outline where you want, basically going from point A to point B, how do you want this to, like, I guess, end, so yeah, that's that's totally understandable. All right, Kevin, do you have another question for Ian here?
So if you've encountered writer's block, how do you deal with it personally? And what advice would you give for those who do encounter writer's block?
I have encountered it. It is a real thing. It is a physical experience. Like
Mm.
normally my brain is buzzing all the time. It's a bee in a jar. And then when I hit those doldrums, the quiet is unnerving. It's actually kind of relaxing as well because this must be how normal people are, but that just absolute lack of thought is very noticeable. For me, I try to take a break where I can, do a bit of exercise, go for a walk, lift some weights, go run the errands, clean the bathroom, do something physical and get your mind off of it because your subconscious will continue to work on it. Even as you're doing something else, your brain is still actively working with it. Half the time it's when I'm on the road on a long drive between errands or going somewhere. And it's like, oh, there we go. That's the brilliant solution I needed. I cannot stop and write this down. Dadgummit. Don't forget it. 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 If you frequently have stuff that comes to you in a dream, you have
Mm.
very vivid dreams, or you're in the middle of wonderful sleep session and the solution comes to you and you're like, oh, I'll get it when I get up. No, you won't. Grab the journal next to your bed, write it down, even if it's just scroll, write it down. You will not remember it. You never will. I promise you. And in general, I would say don't force it. It's
Mm.
like having a pulled muscle. If you try to
Mhm.
overexert it, all you're going to do is frustrate and hurt yourself further. If you have the luxury of time, step away, rest your brain by doing something else, work on another project, something for fun or something for another client, because shifting those mental gears will free you up and help things work later on. If you are on a deadline and you really need to get this done, just put it down. Even if it's not fantastic, hopefully this is your first draft and you can come back and revise later. But you need to put something down.
Mhm.
Ideally, if you've got enough time, you can put down the really crap copy, get up the next day and say, oh, that was awful, but now I understand why it is, and fix it before you send it in.
Mm.
Mostly it's learn your own processes, learn to listen to your own body and understand what it needs and how your creative process works, and learn how to best work with yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's such great advice when, because I've been through artist block, and I do exactly what you just described, Ian. Sometimes I take a break and sometimes I, go for a walk or I like exercise it's like I love the analogy that you use that, um, if don't try to force yourself to be creative when, it feels like you're pulling a muscle. It's like, yeah, you don't want to overexert yourself. Like if you at least like do something else, to help with your creative block in general, you will eventually figure it out, and it's worked for me too. So so like creator's block is real. Um, so and I loved your answer because it's exactly what I do when because I've been through artist block like so many times where I have to like take a break if I'm like drawing something and I have to like, okay, where was I going with this? Um, but yeah. Ooh, okay. I see a question in the chat by Fern Stories. What film slash show would you say is the first that comes to mind that is a masterpiece? Something you can watch over and over again, never get tired, confidently super hyped to friends and family.
Uh, Coin flip between Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, interesting.
As a fan of both, I approve.
Because Full
Ooh.
Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a pretty faithful adaptation of the manga, and that is like the high bar for visual storytelling for me. I don't know if I'll ever achieve it, but my goodness, I'll shoot for that moon. And Cowboy Bebop, if you don't already know, then just watch it already. What are you waiting for?
Ooh, very interesting. Oh my gosh, but like I'm very curious, like to add on to that question, Ian, like do you like when anime like actually adapts the manga story into anime format? I'm just very curious about that from your perspective.
I prefer adaptations in general to be more faithful to the source material. You're adapting the source material because it was successful, because it did well. Why reinvent the wheel? I understand why the original Full Metal Alchemist anime series had to do what it did. The manga wasn't done yet,
Hmm.
but it went in directions that I felt were very clearly not remotely in theme with what had already been established. And that,
Hmm.
as a creator with my own particular vision, that irks me. But I also understand that not everything translates from the static page to full motion well, and some adaptations are better than the source material or improve upon it or consolidate it in ways that make it more accessible. You know, the MCU, for all its highs and lows, lots of highs, lots of lows. You cannot faithfully adapt 70 years worth of a character's canon to a 2-hour movie.
Hmm.
Not even remotely feasible. So taking that and distilling it into a particular essence and saying this is the movie version, I feel like is different. If
Hmm.
you're doing this is the adaptation, this is the animated version of something, I feel like it needs to be closer to the source material.
Mm. Ah, that's fair. That's fair, yeah. Because I know a lot of people love that when Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood came out, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love how this is faithful to the original manga."
Because it's just so good. It is airtight. You could use that as a submarine. Oh, it's beautiful.
All right, Kevin. Do you have another question for Ian?
So you've worked with different comic companies and different franchises over the years. Were there like any differences in working between those companies and franchises at all?
Oh, sure. Um, the basic mechanics are the same throughout, but each company has their own rates, their own royalty system, and each license holder has their own way of working with extra talent. Some have been very, very lax and given everyone on the team a lot of creative room. Some have been very particular on one aspect of production, but not so much on another. Some have been immediately responsive. Some have taken months to get back to us. And that's always a nail biter. Hi, Ian, you turned in this script 4 months ago. Here's the notes. Thanks. When do we need this by? 2 months ago. Ha ha. Uh, and we've had some licensors that are open to suggestion. Maybe they want to keep things very much within their vision, but they give you some wiggle room. And there have been some licensors that have been so difficult to work with, the project died. It never saw the light of day. So, and there's some licensors that are just like, no, but we already have an agreement to do more projects. No. Oh, oh well. So it goes.
Mm. Okay. Very insightful. Ooh, okay. Oh, okay. Here is a question in the chat. Another question by Dolius. Is there any franchise that you would like to be involved with that you have not been involved with yet?
Star Fox.
Oh.
Just Nintendo, you go sit in the other room and let me cook.
Oh my gosh, we can dream.
I've got it all mapped out in my head, dude, from Star Fox 64 to Star Fox Command, the whole gamut. 10 years worth of books. Let me cook. Let me go wild.
I'm very curious. Is it the story that intrigues you about Star Fox?
I don't really know, to be honest, because if you asked me to critique it, it would be very hard to stay positive throughout. Gameplay, story, plot progression, coherency between titles. There's a lot to critique, but something about it just really resonates with me. It's a little bit of Star Wars, it's a little bit of Sonic, it's a little bit of I it's kind of a mishmash of a variety of mecha anime. It's pulpy space opera fun. Colorful
Mm.
animal in ship go fast pew pew. Maybe I'm an easy mark. I don't know. But something about it always resonated with me.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely Star Fox, like it can give you a bit of Sonic vibes, because the talking animals. I can definitely see that. And then obviously since it takes place in space, it's like, yeah, Star Wars. Um, so that's very intriguing. Ooh, okay. Here's my next question for you, Ian. Tell us about how you started the BumbleKast, your podcast.
So it's been over 10 years now. My co-host, Kyle JCRB, had been running a video game radio show called Nitro Game Injection, kngi.org. And he had already been running that for 10 years. Like he was one of the first internet radio shows back when we were all running on like 56K modems. Like, man was a pioneer and really big into the video game remix scene, OCR remix and other stuff. And he was good friends with my wife, Aaliyah, and he came up to visit us and, palling around and just talking it out. And I already had it in my head that, I had a fair amount of success interacting with readers on my old web forum. What if we could turn that into, a radio show, a podcast? Because my dad used to do morning radio. I grew up with that. I've kind of already got that in my blood. So it's like, all right, I kind of know how to do radio personality stuff, at least in passing. Kyle knows how to run a podcast or radio show. Kyle, would you be interested in maybe doing a show? He's like, yes. Oh, cool. I didn't know if you want to, please. All right, cool. And like on the car ride back to the airport, we were just going through songs for options on what would be our intro theme and talking about the format of the show. And we launched October of, I guess, 2016 roundabouts. And we have been consistent pretty much every week at least since then.
Wow.
Oh, that's a long history there, especially the part about Kyle being around so long with 56K modem. That makes me feel old now.
I know, right? I know, right?
What's
Your time just goes by fast.
It does.
what's fun is if you go back to the KNGI archives, you can actually, I'm pretty sure you can go back to those first shows and listen to their horrible grainy quality. But by dingy, he got it out there.
Nice. All right, Kevin, do you have another question for Ian?
I'm very curious. How did you come up with the name BumbleKast for the podcast? I'd love to know the origin behind that.
Well, it starts with Bumble King, which is my website and my personal brand. And that started with 12th grade AP environmental science. Now, we were going on a trip down to the Okefenokee swamp. And our
Mm.
course book for the trip had this, stock art alligator on the cover. And I was not paying attention in class. I'm just doodling on the cover and I give it little bingo ball antennae and put little stripes on his tail and gave him a little thought balloon. I am the Bumble King. Drew little bees. We love our king. And it's like, this is so stupid. But it sticks with you. I wonder if I can turn this into a brand. So I did. And so I have Bumble King. Bumble King is attached to my name. What do I do with that? And if we were going to do a podcast, a broadcast, we could just make it the BumbleKast. And that is where BumbleKast comes from. A little bit of high school nonsense that just happened to fail upwards into a podcast title.
That's a very interesting origin
Oh.
story.
Yeah, like sometimes it's like sometimes someone gets like their inspiration from like something from their memory, as a teenager or as a child, and then they like and like you said, the name fits, and you're like, yeah, let's name it this. Ooh, okay. Um. Oh, okay. I see another question by Dolius. Which convention or expo that you've been to is your favorite?
Hmm. That is hard to pick. Did Heroes Con for years down in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is paradoxically a very big show, but also a very small show. Like, it's a very big space, and there are tons of creators there, but it doesn't have that overwhelming aura like New York or San Diego do. It still feels very accessible, down to earth, chill. It's just a nice show to go to. It's been years since I've been able to make it. I don't know if it's changed, but I'm pretty sure it would be about the same way. It's very family oriented, and again, it's very creator oriented. You don't typically see like the big Marvel booth or the big DC booth or here's the Sony interactive booth. It's just artists and writers and creators having tables, very open air, talking with folks and selling books. Uh, I was telling you guys before we got started on the show, San Diego Comic Con was massive. And once
Hmm.
the show ended, the party just spilled out into the shops and stores outside across from the convention center.
Hmm.
And I will forever remember us wading through the sea of people and going past this outdoor bistro where there were at least a half a dozen luchadors in business suits. And they all raised their beer steins to us and went, oh. And it's like, this is fun. This is just a fun vibe to exist in.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, but to add to that question, like how many years have you been going to like conventions now?
I did a fair few early on, just like the first 10 years or so. But since then, I've fallen off and I haven't been able to travel as much as I used to or do shows anymore. I'm going to see if I can maybe do a couple in Toronto in 2026, but I haven't heard back if I've got a table. But it's still, January, so we'll see.
Hmm. Okay. All right.
If you want to see if I'm doing a convention, follow me on Blue Sky at Ian Flynn BKC or my personal website, bumbleking.com.
All right, Kevin, do you have another question for Ian?
So what is it like to run and put on that BumbleKast podcast, like from start to finish? I would like love to know the behind the scenes of how everything is put together.
The short version is Kyle does it.
Mm.
He manages all the questions that come in from our Patreon, our Ko-fi, and our YouTube members. He compiles the Q&A lists. He manages the Trello that shows the BumbleKast minis, which are special one-shot episodes that people buy. They buy just like a 10 slot of questions just for themselves or the guest spots or whatever. Uh, he manages the recording. He masters the videos. He does all the uploads. Basically, all I do is at the end of it all, I schedule it on the Patreon and YouTube. He manages just about everything. And then our two Bumble Crew volunteers, Nova and Noni, they usually sit in on the recording session and they will get an idea from the contents on what to make for the thumbnail. And then they race to get it done before the episode comes out. And from there, we sign on to Discord. We say, "Hey, how you been? It's been a week already. How did that happen?" Pull up the shared document in Google Docs and just record then and there. Kyle goes through, edits out any awkward pauses or non-hilarious flubs. He keeps the hilarious flubs. Got to keep the people entertained. Puts it all together, uploads it to the various platforms, and there you go.
Mm.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, got to give props to Kyle and everybody else who worked on the BumbleKast too, because it's a lot of work goes into it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Also, there's Cassie, who, in addition to her daily job, which is already very demanding, she also manages all our social media channels.
Oh yeah, I actually did meet Cassie. Very,
Hey,
very, very nice person. Yeah, I saw her, I think, 1 year at San Diego Comic Con. And
we've got JR Unbound, who goes through and does the timestamps for all the questions on every episode, volunteer work. He's been doing that for years. Professor Rye has been helping out with some of the editing duties. Kyle's partner Jennifer helps manage the Q&A when we do our end of the month live sessions because a lot of questions come in real fast. And there's even more Bumble crew that help us out behind the scenes. So we've got a very large volunteer force that helps shore things up and take a little bit of the workload off of Kyle, but Kyle's the central pillar. Seriously,
Mm.
go support a show, kngi.org. It's got a Patreon too. Go, go, go. Listen to him. Good video game music. Good guy.
Yeah, I met Kathy at Sonic Expo Dallas a few months ago, and she's really, really nice.
Mhm.
We met each other through another friend of ours, and she's just very pleasant to talk to and hang out with.
Mhm. Ooh, okay. I see another question in the chat by doc_animator_n. Do you have an independent slash personal series of your own? So they kind of give example of Lackadaisy to Tracy J. Butler and Mallory Bash to David Perry.
What a very handsome question. And yes, as a matter of fact, I do. My original series, Drogoon, launched this past November. It is a science fantasy series that I've been working with artist Adam Bryce Thomas. We've been picking away at this for years and years in between our various gigs, and we finally put together volume one of Fortune's Lap. You can find it a physical edition or digital version, whichever is your preference, over at drogoon.com. That's DROGUNE.com. We're going to try to get started on book two as soon as we can. And I've got a number of other Drogoon related projects in the works right now. This is this is my personal creative escape. I am very thankful I've worked on so many fun licenses for so long, but there's always that oversight. You can't do it this way. We need to be it on brand. It needs to sound like this. It needs to look like this, which is fine. That's fair. That's their property. This is mine. This is something that I can say, it looks like this. It sounds like this. It will be like this. And it is. So that's Drogoon Fortune's Lap, Volume 1, 80 pages, black and white, science, fantasy, adventure, comedy, horror, drama, found family, talk and rock people. It's just a good time.
Nice. Oh, okay. I see another question in the chat. Another question by Trey. Do you have a favorite video game from Nintendo?
Star Fox. And I've enjoyed a lot of them Nintendo staples. Never been particularly good at the Metroid series, but I respect it. Really enjoyed Splatoon. Wasn't very good at it, but I respect it. Uh, Star Fox isn't very good, but I still respect it. Love the energy of the Donkey Kong series. Played a lot, maybe not a lot. Played a fair amount of the Legend of Zelda series. Tried to play F Zero.
Mm.
Tried being the operative word. Holy crap! Every one of these games is so bloody fast. Like, I think I'll go back to like the SNES version. The simple kind, only three cars. Nope, can't do it. Cannot do it. Uh, Animal Crossing has been a fun time. Build up my house to the highest level and then leave it to the roaches. Happens every game.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, like the Nintendo IPs, you gotta respect them. They have like Pokemon, they have Super Mario, they have F-Zero, they have Metroid, they have Animal Crossing, Splatoon. It's like they have a lot of great IPs,
Yep.
you know. So
Fell off the Pokemon bandwagon, I guess around Sun and Moon. That was the last one I think I really played. Still kind of
ah.
keep tabs on it, but I realized I'm in my 40s and I have opinions about Pokemon designs. Maybe it's time I step away.
I mean, that's fair, yeah. Ooh, okay. I see another question in the chat by another question by Delius. I've noticed that you wrote comics based on some holidays. Which holiday do you enjoy writing stories for the most? Interesting question.
Yeah, haven't done. How many holiday specials have I done at this point? Come to think of it. I would say my favorite one is Halloween because that's just my favorite holiday in general.
Oh,
You can
nice.
go spooky, you can go humorous, you can go a little bit of both. It's versatile like that.
Mm. I mean, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Ha Halloween, Dolly's like, yes, thank you. I think Dolly has wanted hope was hopeful your answer was Halloween.
I think my favorite one that we've done within the Archie books was they introduced these two little spirits called Trick and Treat, who were the essence of Halloween. And Treat loves the candy aspect of it, going around house to house and, ooh, what delightful, fun prizes will you find? And Trick enjoys the trick part, pranking people and causing them to scream and run and all that stuff. So that was a fun little duo we had. And then in a later story, they introduced Candy, the third spirit, who's just this gremlin, this snarling, horrible little beastie that's just like candy, 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 who just wants candy. Doesn't matter how you get it or what circumstances, there has to be candy, candy, candy. And both Trick or Treat are like, whoa, what? What are you? No, no, thank you.
I think it's funny when you started doing that little gremlin voice. I was like, it kind of reminds me of like I think it's like Gollum or Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. It kind of reminded me of that.
Trick or treat, precious. Good.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Ooh, okay. Here is another question that I have for you, Ian. I know I just had the question just now. Um, how do you prioritize writing projects and managing deadlines? Because I know I want to hear this, because I know in at least in the comic book industry that you guys have like deadlines. So I'm very curious of like your time management.
Uh, it depends on when all the deadlines are and what the projects are. Like, for instance, this holiday season, I had about a half dozen projects come in that were all due January 5th. And a big project that would be due 2 weeks later. And, it's the holidays. I want to actually enjoy those. So, what do? And I looked at what was there, how big was each project, how creatively demanding was each project, and how specific was each project. One project was a pretty light overview. I already knew the ins and outs of it. It was very familiar territory. I knew I could wrap that one up really fast. Another project was a bit longer, but it was still within my comfort zone. So I knew I could tackle it with relative ease. It would just take a little bit. While another project was a little outside of my regular wheelhouse, so it would require a bit more thought. It wasn't necessarily any longer, but I knew I would need more time with it. So that's what I would prioritize is the one that I know is going to take the most time and effort, knock that out, and then I can do the other projects where I'm not necessarily as energized, but I know I have the energy that I can tackle them fairly easily. Or if something happens to the schedule and I have to move things around, something that I can do quickly or something that's relatively small, I can slot in and do without worrying about the time too much. Whereas that bigger project that would take more thought is much harder to schedule around. So go ahead and eliminate it so it's not a variable anymore. So,
Mm.
how do you apply that at home? Directly to the forehead. You again learn how you work, learn how your creative process is, and see what projects you're going to be able to manage swiftly and succinctly, and which ones you will need more time on, and schedule accordingly.
Mm. Great. That's really good because I know time management is very important, especially in the comic book industry. Oh, okay. Kevin, you can ask your last question and I will ask the last question in the chat.
Uh, let let's see. If there's one thing you would like to see happen in the comic book industry in the future, what would it be and why?
The one thing,
Yeah.
uh, better, more consistent rates for everyone involved in the process. Not just the freelancers, but the folks who work in the offices as well, doing the marketing and the brand management and all the unsung, unfun part of the process. It is it is a lucrative enough market that I have been able to do it as my primary source of income for 20 years, which I'm very thankful for. But it is not retirement wages in the slightest. And it's all freelance. It's all, once you submit that script, you're done. It doesn't matter how many times it gets reprinted, doesn't matter if it gets adapted into some other form of media. You turn in that script, you create that character, whatever, it's gone forever. You got that one paycheck. And I would like to see the industry shift so that the creative work that so many people put into it is rewarded beyond just that singular deadline being met.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very understandable answer too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like case in point, one of the characters we created in the Archie Mega Man series, Quake Woman. I would be giddy, beyond over the moon if she were to show up in the next Mega Man game. Love it, love it, love
Mm.
it, love it. I will not see a dime from it if that happens. And I was one of the creatives involved in making her. And that stings a little bit. I won't begrudge that if she ever comes out in any other form of media. I would love to see it, to be sure. I want the action figure. But it is that little nagging thought in the back of my head of she wouldn't exist without the contributions of myself and Leah and others who brought her to life. We're not going to see anything from it, if anything came of it, you know? And that it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Mm. Okay, so here is the final question in the chat. Another question by Fern Stories. Who's your favorite DreamWorks character and favorite DreamWorks movie?
Huh. I think the one movie that I'll queue up just as a comfort watch would be Shrek 2.
Ooh, nice.
Because after the first one deconstructed and lampooned all the Disney-esque fantasy stuff, Shrek 2 turned around and did all that, but did it in its own way. And it's, I don't know, I find it very satisfying, engaging every time.
Hmm.
Favorite character? Probably Toothless the dragon.
Ooh, awesome.
He's basically a big black cat that shoots fire.
I love Toothless too. He's just adorable.
Would give belly rubs.
Oh, oh, really cute. Yeah, Shrek 2, like the first two Shrek movies were just peak. Like everyone can agree that the first two Shrek movies were peak. They were like fantastic movies and stuff. All right, so unfortunately, we will have to end this Q&A. I want to thank you, Ian, for taking time off your busy schedule because I know you are a busy guy.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. I can't believe it's already been an hour.
I know an hour goes by pretty fast. And of course, I want to thank my co-host Kevin here for co-hosting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I am going to announce the upcoming live streams coming soon. Obviously, I do have the next episode of the God Spotlight with LSR episode tomorrow at 5 p.m. PT, 8 p.m. ET, episode 51, and it's a Q&A with Feather Vocals, who is an MLP content creator. So if you want to tune in for that, Kevin will be co-hosting with me for that one tomorrow. And then on next month, on February 6th at 12 p.m. PT, 3 p.m. ET, is the next episode of the Lucky Charm podcast, episode 15, where G and we will be ranking the season 6 episodes so far because season 6 has not, they haven't fully aired all the episodes, but we are going to rank them in a tier list. So yeah. And of course, I want to thank you all for tuning in, for this episode. And Ian here has the pleasure of having the golden 50th episode for this podcast. So
So shiny and chrome.
and of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on that bell notifications for upcoming live stream and video content. And may you all have a wonderful rest of your day or night, depending on time zone. Bye, everyone.